everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today we got a whole bunch of Star Wars news. Almost too much Star Wars news. We are exactly 1 week, or almost exactly 1 week away from Star Wars Celebration, but despite that, despite, supposedly all the news coming out then, today Vanity Fair decided to release their, or at least their big article. I'm assuming there's more in the actual magazine, but this big article they released online that details everything from Obi-Wan to Ahsoka series to Mando season 3 to Andor. They got interviews with Kathleen Kennedy. They got interviews with a lot of the cast members. They talk about like Star Wars and movies and what's the status on that, and they got a bunch of great pictures like this one here. Everyone's going crazy over this picture. Here's Hayden Christensen with a cape on and practicing as Vader, and just honestly a lot of great imagery behind the scenes. And there's so much in this that, to be completely honest, as much as I'm going to sit here and try to comb over like the important bits, I highly recommend you go just read this for yourself, because there's so much here. Some of these pieces have gone on and created a life of their own, and they've kind of become the talk of Twitter and this big controversy, which we will get to. We will address one of the big things that kind of came out of this, but there is a lot of different things here, almost too much. I'm honestly surprised that they didn't break this up into like 4, 5, 6 different articles. It's all just in one mega article. So what we're gonna do, to be honest with you, we can see some of these pictures here actually as we scroll down. Let's see. Here's Favreau with little baby Yoda. They got these awesome photographs of everything. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay, so first, couple things. One of them is that John Watts, who is the director of the MCU Spider-Man movies, he is confirmed to be developing an untitled Star Wars series set after Return of the Jedi. The series is described as a galactic version of classic Emblem coming-of-age adventure films of the 80s. And I forget what there was like a code name that's going around. I kind of forget what it was actually called. I wonder if I can find it real quick. Honestly, no, it's probably gonna take me way too long to try and find it. In either case, so that is another series that is being developed. He was actually supposed to go on and do Fantastic Four, and he recently, I guess, dropped out of doing the new Fantastic Four movie, I suppose, to concentrate on this. It's being described as basically a bunch of young Padawans, maybe, kind of going off on their own adventure, getting into all kinds of trouble. Some people speculate that maybe this is about Luke's Jedi Academy. Who knows, honestly. Now, what's interesting is that this story was originally, I think we heard about it from Jordan Mason. He was under the impression that this was set during the High Republic. So that is the major, kind of shift that we're hearing, is like this project that we've heard whispers of is actually after Return of the Jedi. Obviously same time period as Mandalorian and all these other shows, so maybe it will connect to that in some way. The next thing we got here is a little bit, again, this article literally talks about everything. Leslie Headland talked about the Acolyte. She says, "My question when watching The Phantom Menace was always like, well, how did things get to this point? How did we get to a point where the Sith Lord can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi pick up on it? Like, what went wrong?" Which, that's always fascinating, and obviously that is stuff that the High Republic right now is sort of trying to cover. And they did confirm that this show takes place 100 years before The Phantom Menace, whereas the High Republic books are taking place 200 years before then. So this is after the books, but still before the movies. That's basically where this show is taking place. And in the actual article itself, she did at some point here, she did describe how the Jedi are still wearing their white and gold cloaks, which you do see in the High Republic, which that's really cool. We're going to be able to see that live action. Maybe, we know some of those Jedi are still going to be alive, like obviously like Yoda, and probably some of the Wookiee characters are gonna, they all live a couple hundred years, right? So we know at least some of those characters will probably still be around and probably show up. Not all of them, obviously. The human ones will not. But in any case, everyone's still really excited about that show. And then I tried to break down a lot of the other information as much as I could. I tried to break it down in this thread here. So the first major thing is that we kind of have dates for when these shows are going to come out. So we said first up is Obi-Wan Kenobi. It debuts on May 27th. And then Luna's Spy Saga Andor hits screens late this summer. Season 3 of The Mandalorian, reuniting Pedro Pascal's helmeted gunfighter with his little green ward, drops in late 2022 or early 2023. And then next is Ahsoka, playing with live action version of Ahsoka. And then slightly further in the future is The Acolyte. So basically what it sounds like, you know, I kind of wrote it up here. What it sounds like is right after Obi-Wan, which we are 1 week away from, then we're going to get Andor this summer. So that's actually pretty soon. Andor's like, it feels like Obi-Wan's going to end and Andor's going to pick up like right there. So not long await at all. And then it feels like The Mandalorian might be kind of doing what they did with the Book of Boba Fett, where like the first episode drops that very last week of the year, and then the rest of the show plays out in the beginning of 2023, which I'm okay with, you know, because we still have other shows that we're probably going to get to. Things that they actually don't talk about in this article at all. The Bad Batch Season 2, Visions Season 2, and Tales of the Jedi. All three of those things we know are like animated projects. They don't mention those at all, which, you know, I guess makes sense. This focused on live action. So I imagine that after Andor, we're probably going to get, I would say probably Bad Batch Season 2 is probably going to happen at some point in between Andor and Mando Season 3. That's just a guess, but, you know, I'm assuming Celebration will have those announcements come out. But yeah, that seems to be the schedule. Some people speculated that we would see Ahsoka and Mando all this year. It looks like that's not actually going to end up being the case, but I think we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. So let's go on to the next one here. And this one was all about how they're going to take their time on movies going forward. Basically how they're like, we need to get together, we need to regroup, we need to like reorganize. And this happened like months before The Rise of Skywalker. And I remember this all being like one big announcement where they're just like, all right, we all got to come together. Kathleen Kennedy says some interesting stuff here where she's like, anyone who comes into the Star Wars universe needs to know that it's a 3, 4, 5 year commitment. That's what it takes. You can't step in for a year and shoot something and then walk away. It requires that kind of nurturing. So it feels like she's kind of talking about how things went in the past with JJ and what was his name? He was going to do episode 9. Colin Trevorrow was that the guy who was going to do it? Anyways, so it kind of feels like she's definitely like taking this new approach when it comes to people like Patty Jenkins and Taika Waititi, saying like, okay, we're not gonna like rush this. Like this is gonna be like a 3-4 year development cycle. Whereas those, you know, JJ and Ryan, they took, you know, 2 years maybe, you know, to develop their, like, from beginning to end. It was like 2 years, and then it went out, you know. So it sounds like they're definitely like taking their time, which honestly I think that's the best thing. Despite how you may or may not feel about anything that they've come out with, I think the one uniting thing everyone can agree on is that, like, take your time with the movies. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to do this like one movie per year. And that's, you know, and that's a big thing, is that like they're definitely not going to do one movie a year anymore. And that's probably just for the best, honestly. Like, that's, everyone seems to agree at least on that. It's like, it's just for the best. Take your time. It's okay. Let's see, this next thing. Now, this was interesting. Something I actually didn't know was that, so apparently what actually happened here when it comes to the development of The Mandalorian, so actually it turns out she went to Jon Favreau, who wanted to do a Mandalorian series, and then it turned out that Dave Filoni had his own very similar project already in mind. And so basically what happened is that she arranged it so they both got together and they had to combine their ideas. And it turns out that Jon Favreau was actually the one who came up with the Baby Yoda idea, and Dave Filoni kind of had to be convinced into it, which is kind of very fascinating, because that's always been something that some people were bothered by, how, like, you know, Yoda's species and Yoda's whole lineage was supposed to be like very secret and sacred, and that was like the whole idea behind it. It was like, we don't know anything about Yoda. So there you go. It turns out it's a Jon Favreau idea, and Filoni was kind of talked into it. So it's kind of interesting. I like that. Let's see. Ewan wanted to just Ewan McGregor is actually, turns out he's a producer on the show this time, and he wanted to be the one who's exploring him being broken and losing his faith, and he's like in this really like kind of torn down, deconstructed point in his life. Now the reason this is interesting is because this sounds an awful lot like what they did with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, and obviously we know how certain people reacted to that, you know. So it's just kind of funny that like here we have the actor who is a producer on the show saying that he wanted to do it this way. So I don't know, we'll see how they do it in this show. Like you know, Obi-Wan has good reason to be beaten down and kind of like in this dark place, right? He eventually becomes old Ben, where he's like all wise, and he's still, you know, he like comes back to being a Jedi, you know, but like he has 19 years to get to that point, you know. So it's like, I get it, you know. So we'll see how people react to that. It's just interesting to note that like this was Ewan McGregor's idea, you know. Here we go. So they do mention, and this was something that happened a while ago. So there was all these rumors about Hayden Christensen's going to come back, not just for Obi-Wan but also for Ahsoka the TV series. And Rosario Dawson, on her Instagram or something, let's see, does it say her Instagram? I don't know, maybe I believe it was Instagram. Anyway, she posted a picture saying like, oh, they found out, and a lot of people took that as confirmation, because why would you not take that as confirmation? And this article still does not explicitly say that it's true or false. That's the important thing to say. Dawson says, oh man, I can't be trusted. So it's definitely kind of being played, you know, kind of as a funny moment. They have not explicitly confirmed that it is happening, but I mean, come on, it's the way that this is all phrased, the way that whole thing went down, it's probably happening. So Anakin's definitely going to be in the show. It's just kind of funny that like even now they're still like, I don't know. Okay, so this one here, this is a big one. In fact, this is like the big controversy that's kind of come up. So I think it's important that we actually let's go ahead and read this whole thing here, this part of the article, because this has caused like a flurry online. I don't know how else you would phrase that. Anyway, so here's what actually it says. Okay, and remember, this is the author of the article talking. This is not a quote from anyone yet. Okay, here we go. To keep minting fans, Lucasfilm must give new generations their own collection of characters to love and hate, and not every classic character can be brought back endlessly anyways. Kennedy is well aware of all this now. In The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, Mark Hamill, 70, delivered performances as 30-something Luke Skywalker. But younger actors played Luke's body while advanced deepfake technology replaced the face. Bringing Luke to life is now a team sport, but that tech has its limitations. So does recasting. Okay. Ooh, sorry. The 2018 movie Solo explored Han Solo's younger years with Alden Iron. I can never get his last name right. Alden Ehrenreich, I think that's how you say it, taking on the role of the smuggler originated by Harrison Ford. The film has its admirers, but it made less at the box office than any other live-action Star Wars movie. Solo's swagger may be too singular for another actor to replicate. Okay, I'm going to stop there because that was all the author of the article talking. That was not anyone else talking. Here's what actually Kathleen Kennedy says. She says, there should be moments along the way when you learn things. Now it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that. Period. That's all she says. Okay? Now, the way that this is phrased, the way that this is written, the way that the quote that she has, and then all of these sentences before it are all like framed together, the way that it makes it look is that they're essentially saying Alden was not able to convincingly be Han Solo enough, and therefore, you know, the movie didn't do good, and so we're just not going to recast anymore because some people just have to be deep faked because there's no way a recasted person can ever capture that or something. That's kind of seems to be what's being inferred here. So some people are very, very angry at this. A lot of people who love Solo, and I enjoy Solo too. You know, I used to not like it so much, but I actually have grown to enjoy it quite a bit. In fact, Alden's performance has never been a problem for me. And in fact, as far as I can tell, Alden's performance has not been an issue for many people. Even people who were like kind of so-so on the movie don't seem to mind Alden's performance. Like, that's not a problem with the movie. So the inference here, I think mostly by the author of the article, the inference that it's because he was unable to capture Han Solo correctly that then made it the least successful thing, and taught Lucasfilm this big lesson, you know, and like that's the lesson they took away from Solo. That has just caused this, frankly, it's a shitstorm on Twitter and on YouTube. A lot of people are very upset at this, and you know, I gotta say, if I were Lucasfilm, if I were, you know, Kathleen Kennedy or whatever, right, I would come out with some kind of small statement saying like, hey, my quote was kind of put into this context that made it infer things that I did not intend for it to infer. You know, like, basically, I, Kathleen Kennedy, did not write the article. If you notice all these sentences that come before my quote, I didn't write those sentences. Those are all the opinions of the author, you know? So, I don't know. I would come out with some sort of small little statement just going like, we're not trying to insult Alden's performance or something. That's, you know? So some people believe that, you know, Kathleen Kennedy did not actually mean this because she didn't say anything about Alden herself. You know, her actual quotes down there are just those two sentences at the bottom. She didn't actually say anything. Other people believe that, well, this was all approved by Lucasfilm and Disney and Kathleen Kennedy. Like, this whole article was, you know, it's a deal made between Vanity Fair and Lucasfilm. Like, this, they saw this and they said, yeah, print that, you know? So it is kind of like this thing that's being debated, and it's like, my thing is, like, I hate that this is a thing, because there's so much in this article that is so important about information wise, like the future of what's happening and all these upcoming projects, and yet it's this thing, it's this statement, it's this paragraph here that seems so weirdly worded and almost aggressive towards this particular actor that like has become the main subject now. And I hate that. I hate that this has become the main subject. I don't know. I guess my thing is like, if this is some way of like saying, well, see, look, some characters just cannot be recasted, and so we have to do deepfake technology. If that's what Kathleen Kennedy is trying to say, and that's why they're doing Luke Skywalker the way they're doing it, which, by the way, a lot of people out there are very angry that they're doing deep fakes at all with Luke Skywalker, and I've seen some like crazy takes where they're like, oh, I don't want this walking homunculus, this fake person doing a fake performance and all this, and I'm like, oh, first of all, hold on. the deep fake Luke Skywalker, it is like 2 or 3 different people doing that performance. It's not a homunculus, like a fake person, okay? There's, if anything, there's more humans involved in that than a single normal performance. Anyways, so I think people are like needlessly aggressive against the deepfake technology, first of all. But at the same time, it is weird to have this statement, if this was their intention, to be like, yeah, Alden just didn't do a good job, you know? First of all, that's weirdly aggressive. I don't know why you would burn a bridge like that. Second of all, you're coming out with a TV show about Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, who is a recast younger Obi-Wan, you know? Like, he is a recast. The exact same way that Alden was a recasted younger Han Solo, Ewan McGregor was a recasted younger Alec McGinnis, you know? So like, it's if that was their intention for it to sound the way that it came off, it's a weird move. It's a weird opinion. It's a weird take to come out. You know, Solo had several things go wrong. Alden was not one of them. You know, it was the timing of its release, which, you know, it came out right after Infinity War, right before Deadpool 2, and only 5 months ago you had the other Star Wars. You know, it's like, that's ridiculous timing. I don't know why you would schedule it then. That's all by Bob Iger right there. The marketing was, you know, I've talked about this before, but Solo had several problems. It wasn't all in. So honestly, I don't know. I can't sit here and be like, oh, well, this side is reacting wrongly or that side is making stuff up. It's like, it does sound that way. You read this, it sounds that way. It sounds like they're trying to basically say Alden wasn't good enough. And I hope that that's not how they intended it for it to sound. And like I said, if I were Lucasfilm, I'd come out with a small statement saying, oh, that's not what we meant at all. And I'm not going to linger on this too much longer, but there is at least one more component to this that I'm like, ugh. So Phil Lord posted this today. If you know Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they were the original directors for Solo before they were let go in replacement to be replaced with Ron Howard. Okay, so they posted this today. Some people are just shitty. My career advice is to get away from shitty people, to get as far away from shitty people as possible, because everyone is just wonderful. Everyone else is just wonderful. He posted this only like a couple hours after all of these articles came out and this big deal started, right? And obviously he's not saying names directly, but the timing of it is hard to ignore. You know what I mean? So that is one thing. Okay, now moving on to another really important thing, and I think this is honestly like one of the last like really important parts of this article here. Obviously there's still a lot more to go through, but this is like my last like big thing, I think. Okay, so what we have here is essentially the future of the movies. Okay, and let's go ahead and actually just read this full thing. So it says, we have a roadmap, Kennedy says. So it's very important that she actually said that, by the way. You know, a lot of people are kind of like freaking out, like, oh, they have no plan, they have no roadmap. There you go, they have a roadmap, she has said it. Let's hope that that's, you know, gonna stay true, you know. Although Lucasfilm's big screen return is unlikely to follow the same relentless cadence as before, you know, basically the year-to-year movies. A movie from Jojo Rabbit's Taika Waititi and 1917 screenwriter Christy Wilson will likely arrive first, with Rogue Squadron from Wonder Woman's director Patty Jenkins further off. So that's a major development right there, is that obviously Rogue Squadron was announced first. They even had like this whole promo thing where she put on an X-Wing helmet, and like it was like a whole thing. And then, you know, we heard reports of there being like these problems, and it seems to be true, because now Taika's movie, which was announced way after that, now that one is coming first, which is interesting because I believe the Disney release slate still has a movie coming out December of 23, you know, December of next year, which, if that's supposed to be Taika's movie, seems very unlikely. You know, like he's just now wrapping up you know, Thor Love and Thunder, so it seems very unlikely that he's going to be able to pump out another movie and have it ready for next Christmas, you know. So it doesn't sound to me like we're getting a movie in 2023. So I would not be surprised if like the next Disney movie list comes out and that's not there anymore. Okay, here we go. And Patty Jenkins is coming. So it is still there. Patty Jenkins is still there. Is it true that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige will produce a Star Wars film? I would love to see what movie he might come up with, Kennedy says. But right now, no, there isn't anything specifically. Okay, so that's another important thing, because Michael Waldron, who wrote Loki, the series, and also just wrote Multiverse of Madness, literally last week, Michael Waldron said that he is working on Kevin Feige's Star Wars film. He's writing it. That's what he said. He said he's working on it right now. So this quote here, where she's like almost denying that it even happened, that there even is a Kevin Feige movie, that seems very strange when we have the writer of that movie coming out and just talking about it. So some people are saying, hey, maybe this interview was from like a month ago, which is very possible, by the way, because, you know, these articles and all this information, it takes time to do all of this, take all the photo shoots, write this whole thing, have it sent to the editor, have it sent back, you know, like it takes time to put this together. So it's possible that like this interview could be several weeks old, you know what I mean? So take that in mind, right? Like it's the things could have developed since then. The other thing to keep in mind also is that because Celebration is next week, it's possible that she simply doesn't want to say anything right now because they have plans. On Thursday, there is a Lucasfilm Studios showcase, which a lot of people are saying like, yeah, that's when the live action movies are gonna say something. So it's possible that they simply don't want to give information out yet right now. And lastly, the last big thing here, and the trilogy from The Last Jedi's Rian Johnson, that was announced 5 years ago, backburnered, sorry. She says Ryan has been unbelievably busy with Knives Out and the deal that he made at Netflix for multiple movies. Okay, so yeah, that announcement for his trilogy was made right before Last Jedi came out in 2017. So it's been years. We haven't heard anything. We have heard Rian Johnson say things like, you know, I'm just waiting on Lucasfilm to tell me when to go, when to like start production, because he has supposedly like had things ready and written. He's had like, you know, he's had like a whole notebook. Like he's had ideas for years now. And then of course he started his whole Knives Out thing, and he, like, you know, like she said, he started this contract with Netflix. I think here's the real truth, okay? And obviously this is going to be like spun by 1,000 YouTubers and 10 million clickbait websites, right? I think the real truth is simply that if this Rian Johnson trilogy was actually canceled, if it was never happening, they simply would have said that a while ago. Do you guys remember when they had the Game of Thrones guys and they were going to do a whole trilogy? They had no problem at all very publicly saying, hey, we have parted ways with the Game of Thrones guys. They're not doing anything anymore. We're done. We're separated, right? So if that was the case with Rian Johnson, they would have said that already. Like, they've had years to say that. And even today, literally today, they're still saying it's on the back burner, but they're not saying it's not a thing. You see what I'm saying? So, like, this is not a case where Lucasfilm, like, just doesn't want to say that. It's like, no, they've said this before. They've said this to several other people. They have let, you know, even like Phil Lord up there, you know, they've let creatives go when they have, you know, when they've butted heads with creative differences. But that clearly is not the case with Rian Johnson, because they haven't let him go yet. They're not canceling this or saying it's gone. Like, they're like, no, it's still just on the back burner. It's like it'll happen eventually, you know. So that's very interesting to me. That says that they have full intentions of one day letting this happen. Now, whether that means his trilogy eventually evolves into something else, maybe it will become a Disney Plus series. Maybe it will become just one movie. It could become anything, you know what I mean? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is that Lucasfilm has been on this hiatus for movies, obviously, right? They had to do this whole like shift after like the saga ended, and they're focusing on Disney Plus, and they're like, okay, we're not gonna like start things and not know where this is going, you know. So like they said, they have a roadmap now, so they just need to figure out where Rian Johnson fits into that. And of course, you know, he's doing fine. He's got his Netflix money. He's got his Knives Out sequels. He's got like, I think 2 and 3 already, like 2's already done. 3's being written, I believe. So Rian Johnson's fine. He's busy. He's doing his thing, you know? But yeah, it seems that they absolutely still have plans one day to make this a thing. They're not like burning that bridge, which is just a very interesting move, and I feel like it's important to make that distinction that like they're not like making that go away, you know. they're not pulling a Game of Thrones guys with this. And I think the very last thing I actually picked up on here was just that she's talking about how she won that award last year, and she's had all these memories with Spielberg and Lucas, and she's talking about how like it amounted to this realization: I do think a little bit of fun has gotten out of making these gigantic movies. The business, the stakes, everything that's been infused in the last 10 years or so. There's a kind of spontaneity and good time that we have to be careful to preserve. I keep holding on to it better be fun. And the reason I think that's important is because, you know, along with the idea of like them no longer cranking out these movies yearly, she recognizes that like it's a machine, you know, like this business, these major, you know, $100 million blockbusters, it's all just one big machine. You have all these wheels turning, you know, you have entire productions that start and then something drastic happens and you have to get rid of people and you have to replace people, and it's, you know, so like I think she's recognized that it's just not as fun as it used to be. So I don't know, I just feel like that's something interesting. It kind of gives you an insight into Kathleen Kennedy's brain, you know. So yeah, overall, all of this stuff, this was a major article, and Celebration is next week, guys, so I can only imagine what could possibly happen there. I can only imagine what happened at Celebration, what they announced. Like I said, a lot of the animated stuff that this did not mention at all, really. I have to imagine a lot of that's there. But yeah, I think overall this was just a really exciting thing to dig through. Like I said, read it on your own, and I think the only thing is like, because of the whole Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich comments, I feel like that's the only like weird sticky part of this article where it's like, oh, you know, did you mean for that to sound the way it sounded? I think other than that, honestly, it's a lot of good news. You know, to be real with you, we are probably not getting a movie next year. I'm just gonna say that now. Some people believe that maybe somehow the Kevin Feige project that they seem to kind of want to be hush-hush about, some people seem to think that movie's coming out next year. I do not think, no way. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it. I would have to see a trailer for the movie for me to believe that that's coming out next year. But, you know, 2024, maybe, you know, so I imagine that they're gonna do some shifting around. I think the idea originally was to have like Avatar movie come out and then Star Wars and then Avatar and then Star Wars, and they were gonna like trade Christmases or something. I think that was the original idea. I don't think that's gonna be the case anymore. I think they've been focusing on the Disney Plus series, and I think for the rest of this year and all of next year, it's just gonna be Disney Plus, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with it just being Disney Plus for now. I know we all miss seeing a Star Wars movie come out, and it's like this big event and it's this amazing thing. But like I said, I think them taking their time, you know, make your roadmap, take your time, have patience, you know, like do things carefully, think about things 3 times, 4 times, 5 times over, you know. That is the best thing that they can do. You know, that's the best thing Lucasfilm can do moving forward, is to take their time. There's not a hurry. There's not a rush. You know, I feel like in the moment after they bought Star Wars, they had to pump out a sequel trilogy. And then they had all these ambitious ideas of like, oh, we can make it like Marvel, where we have 1 every year and then maybe 2 a year. And then Disney Plus became a thing, and that's like, okay, well, this is a whole entirely new animal that we have to deal with. So I'm okay if we don't get a movie for a while. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, just there's so much in this article to talk about. I feel like I've covered the major beats, but there's a lot of like interviews with the different actors, and just everybody in here. So there honestly, like, people could sit here and make like 4 or 5 videos out of this thing. I don't want to do that to you guys, but yeah, check this article out. There's a lot of great stuff here. We got a ton of information, and look at this picture. Just look at that picture. Look at that picture. That's great. That's a good picture. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you feel about everything, the Acolyte and the John Watch project, and all these other Disney Plus shows, and the Alden Ehrenreich situation, and Kathleen Kennedy, and the new movies that may or may not be coming out soon. Just everything, because there's so much. All right, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.